Hey, what's happening, everybody? Robert Phoenix here. Once again, it's Sunday night, and you know what happens on Sunday night? That's right, Sunday Night Astro Live. And I'm going to be here with you for roughly, let's say about the next 90 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more, depending upon how enthusiastic I am and you am. It's been a pretty long week and a pretty intense weekend. Did a 3 hour webinar yesterday with the folks back at Solutions in the Philadelphia area, Bucks County. And then I also have some of my 11th house subscribers part of that webinar as well. So that's one of the things. You join the 11th house, depending upon what level you subscribe to or at. You know, we have the 5, 10, and $20 level. If you are a $10 a month subscriber, you get a transit report, and you get to attend one free webinar over the course of, well, let's say the rest of this year. And if you're the $20 level, you get to attend 2 free webinars. And then you also get the 12-month transit report. So some of you took advantage of that. And I just sent it out to, basically everybody who was at that level, $10 or $20. So I'm going to go over some of that material tonight. And by the way, I'm going to make that webinar available for sale on the website. It's a 3 hour tour de force, actually. And I get into a ton of stuff. I get into Corona. I get into the end of the Piscean age, the beginning of the Aquarian age, the cancellation of Easter, critical dates, critical times. I talk about the year 2020, major arcana representation with the Aeon, the year 2021 with the universe or the world card as part of the mix as well. And then even to some extent the year 2022, when we go back to the zero point with the Fool. And I'm going to talk about some of that tonight as well. And it's going to be wrapped around something called Agenda 21, which I know a number of you know about. And I'm going to get into some Agenda 21 stuff tonight. We're going to look at the chart for the Rio Summit. It's a very interesting chart. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. So I thought that this would be a really good time. It's certainly timely. There's some very interesting aspects in that chart that are really worth addressing and talking about. The other charts I'm going to look at tonight, I'm going to go back in time. And I'm going to look at some of the first vaccine trials. And we're going to look at the charts for those trials. I have 2 specific dates. I'm also going to look at the chart of Jonas Salk and the chart of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So we're going to go back in time. We're going to go back to 1992 when the Rio Summit was taking place. We're going to go back to some of the first vaccine trials. We're going to look at the charts of Salk and Roosevelt. And of course, we're going to look at the week ahead, which is what we do here on Sunday Night AstroLive. That's the protocol for what's going on here. All right, should we bring in the Astro Cat? There he is. There he is. The Astro Cat is with us. Jasper, the astrological cat. Look to the stars. I'll show you right where it's at. It's Jasper, yeah, baby. The astrological cat. Boom. Right. What was that? Oh. Psychic, psycho, psychedelico, psychedelic cat. That's where it's at. So, how is everybody? I think the natives are getting restless. They're getting restless. I found a story about a salon owner, nail salon owner, beauty salon, nail salon. She's saloning up in Frisco, Texas. That's up near Dallas. If you're not from this area, it's a pretty well-populated suburb of Dallas. Man, these headphones make my ears feel funny. So what this salon owner basically said, fuck it, I'm opening my business back up. She's had enough. And I watched her, and she was actually like really together, right? Like she's got a mask on, people have masks on. She sees one person at a time. She doesn't have a whole group of people in there, just does not have it. She's taking people's temperatures. So she's doing everything in her power in order to open back up. And and Tucker Carlson, I guarantee you, she's going to be on Tucker Carlson. That's an easy one. That's such an easy one. So she was given a summons by the county up there. I think it's called Collin County, if I'm not mistaken. And she was at a rally in front of the courthouse in Frisco up there, and she tore up her summons in front of everybody. So this is really interesting. Civil disobedience now is starting to rise in California. They had a number of beaches that opened. You think people just said, "Oh well, we're going to just take this thing slow." No, they hit the beaches. They hit the beaches in Southern California like it was Normandy, okay? They stormed those beaches because these people have been cooped up for a very long time. And we are not meant to be inside like this. We're just not. We're not meant to be under house arrest like this. Unfortunately, there are some real heavy duty things that are happening. Last week, I talked about how Herr Murphy, who is the governor of New Jersey, arrested a woman who was planning a protest because she put it on Facebook. And Herr Murphy sent troops over there to arrest her ass. There's another woman in San Diego arrested for protesting. Now in California, because people were very upset with Herr Newsom, they wound up going to his mansion, the governor's mansion in Sacramento, with their cars. And they let him know that they were not happy and they wanted to get back into the swing of things and start making money and regain and reclaim their self-esteem. Look, they've set it up now. So I've been saying, hey, let's not go back to work. Let's just redefine these things in our terms. They've taken that away now. I can see this. Like that option is off the table because that's exactly what they want you to do. They don't want you to go back to work. They just don't want you to go back to work. This is and by the way, I think it's really breaking down with very specific states. I looked at a map, and the map essentially has the quote unquote blue states as being the states that are really wanting to keep people at home for as long as possible. And you're having some of these red states or governors that tend to be more Republican, moving in a direction where they want to open things back up, i.e. Georgia. Okay. In Georgia, Governor Kemp has decided that he's said, okay, let's go. Let's do this. Right. Let's do this. He knows that that if he wants to be reelected, and he just lost to Stacey Abrams by a little slim margin, that he's going to need to have those voters support him. And remember the fact that, I think his name is Tim Kemp or Brian Kemp. I think that's his name, Brian Kemp. They need him to be able to step forward, move forward, and restart the economy there in Georgia. So the left, of course, so-called left, has said, we're going to go after him. We're going to go after Governor Kemp because it's unsafe. And this is the virtue signal now. This is the shrill virtue signal that everybody is being sort of addressed with, either directly or indirectly. It's a huge amount of peer pressure. And I keep seeing more and more people walking around in stupid fucking masks. And it's just, and the weird thing about people with masks is, I don't know if you've really watched them, kind of observed the mask people, is that they feel like, I watch them and they feel very awkward to me. Like I watch them and there's something about the kind of the awkward nature of how they move. And there's a high degree of self-consciousness as well. There's, and it's, again, creating this weird dynamic of separating people out, the mask wearers and the not mask wearers. Hello, Gemini, here we come. True note to Gemini. We're going to talk a bit about that tonight. But I can see now that, on Friday, by the way, if you haven't seen Friday's show with myself and the Crimmies and of course, Thor stepping in there to come in at the end of the show. If you haven't seen that show, it is really good. It's a long one, close to 3 hours, but I wanted to cover everything that Steve and Chris brought to the table. And of course, the one thing that I had no idea that was going to be brought to the table in the way it was Steve's song, which was tremendous. I was blown away, man. It's like, Steve, I know why you live in North Carolina now, because you can sing the blues, brother. It was really, really good. So if you haven't seen Friday's show, I highly recommend it. The Cremies were fantastic. So 3 hours worth your time to get through all of it. I found that statistically, people watch my shows for about 30 minutes. That's the average watch time. So maybe I should just cut it down to 30 minutes a day. But if that was the case, my average watch time should be about 10 minutes. We live in a short attention span theater. It's okay. That's all right. You get what you can, you get what you need, and then you hopefully move on. So yeah, Friday's show was really good. But what we talked about maps. And that was the theme. We talked about the KC map, the Scallion map, the U.S. Navy map, all these different maps, the Penny Kelly map, and they're all pretty similar, varying degrees of some level of what's the word I'm looking for? Alteration, discrepancy. So like some of the maps, the West Coast is gone. Some of the maps, West Coast has more like islands and peninsulas. Some of the maps, there's more of Arizona, less of Arizona. Some maps have more of the East Coast, less of the East Coast. Some maps have no Florida. Some maps have a little bit of Florida. But the common denominator with all of them is the Mississippi River becoming like a small sea, more like a sea than an actual river, right? Thanks to the fracturing of the New Madrid. But from the map perspective, I was looking at the varying states that are holding on, like Jay Inslee, who is the mayor, Herr Inslee, who is the governor of Washington. He's saying, well, we're not going to open up until you get the vaccine and we get the tracking device. I mean, that's what he's saying. And that he's going to wave that flag. He's going to fly that flag the highest, and he's going to wave it the hardest, because that's where Bill Gates is. You think Bill Gates is going to be talking to Mr. Herr Inslee to get his ass reelected, put money in his coffers and his election fund and everything else that goes along with it? You think he's brought Inslee kind of on the inner circle? Of course he has. Of course he has. So this is why Inslee is doing the hard sell on the vaccine and doing the hard sell on the tracking. Then there are the states, again, like Georgia, for instance, Texas. I think tomorrow Abbott is going to be talking about what he's going to do and how things are going to kind of open up again, or at least the initial stages. So really what we're seeing, I think this is like a soft civil war. And we've been talking about this for a while, bringing it back to astrology. Where are the true nodes going? The true nodes are going into Gemini. South node is going to Sagittarius. We also have Venus in Gemini. And guess what? It's going to go retrograde. And I think the Venus retrograde leads us into this kind of further fracturing, right? We're already, being told to socially distance from one another, which, by the way, I don't see that always being carried out, and I'm okay with that, by the way. But the other thing that goes along with that is that we're also being geographically distanced. Excuse me. Geographically and geopolitically distanced. The gaps are getting wider. And I really feel for people that are living in some of these states where you have these just completely autocratic mayors who are, grabbing power. They're just eating power like they're Skittles, right? They're Miss Pac-Man when it comes to eating power. And actually, if you live in one of those states, I feel for you. I'd be really pissed, really, really pissed. And I'm not really pissed, but I'm looking around. I'm a little mildly agitated. Why I'm agitated? Because I'm seeing people, lose their businesses. Now, what's really interesting, this is a funny thing, is that people that are on unemployment and also getting the stimulus, well, guess what's happening to them? They're making pretty good money. Some of these people are making close to $1,000 a week, and a lot of them had never made $1,000 a week. Like, if they're lucky, they might be making $2,500 a month, maybe $3,000 a month. Now they're making close to $4,000 a month. So what do you think they're going to do? I really don't want to go back to work. I'm really liking this. Oh, you see what's happening? The enticement, the seduction, the enticement and the seduction. Oh, yes. Yes, you're going to enjoy this, aren't you? Yes, I am. You're going to be able to get food from somebody delivering it to you, aren't you? Oh, yes, I am. I am. You're going to have a very nice pizza delivered to you, aren't you? By Domino's. Oh, yes, yes, pizza. Oh, I love the pizza. Oh, and guess what else? You can even have alcohol delivered to you. Isn't that good? Yes. Oh, it's so good. Oh, and look at the money. It's just coming right to you. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, it's so good. So you see, this is what's happening. People are being seduced. And in some ways, do I blame them? Would I take that money versus going back to, some relatively shit job? Whatever that is, I probably say I'll take this money, but I would take the money without understanding the ramifications of it and saying, I'm going to use this money. I gotta use this shit. I gotta figure out what my next step is, because if this thing doesn't open up and they're going to ask me to take this vaccine, I got to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. This is what I would be doing. But then again, I'm not sure to be working those jobs. I mean, that's not to say that I haven't. I've worked a lot of different jobs in my life. And I've done I've done manual labor, hard manual labor. I spent a summer digging ditches and putting sprinkler systems in, and waited on tables, and I've been a mailman, and I've done a bunch of stuff. So I'm certainly not opposed to it, but those are different times, very, very different times. And in many cases, I could have, when I was a mailman, I lived on being a mailman salaries. That was easy. It was real easy. Jasper's done a few different jobs in his lifetime too, but his latest job, of course, is being alternative cat media star. What do you want, man? You want whiskers? You want some whiskers tonight? There you go. There it is. Okay. All right. We got a lot to cover tonight. That's a bit of my preamble. So let's get into where we are. Where are we? We're Jasper. Where are we? Where are you, Jasper? What's going on with you? I got 99 people watching. Let's see what we got here. Let's start at the top. Who's leading off tonight? Batting leadoff. It is number 1, Christine Mose. In the on-deck circle, Jonas. Hey, Judy. Happy birthday, Judy. I hope you had a good birthday. FUP 77, right on time. Bat and cleanup tonight, FUP. There's Uncle Glenn. Hey, Uncle, sent you an email. There's Jennifer Fitzgerald, the lovely and talented Jennifer Fitzgerald. Eagle ZXE, what's going on? Donna Spicer, the Lunar Ladies, also known as Shannon. Hi, Shannon. Good to see you. Jennifer Rubin in the house. Dame Lilith herself. Let's see. There's Alexis. Hi, Alexis. Oh, nice to see you out here. Cool. There's Beverly Wise. We got some Wise Beverlys that hang out here. Kathy Steen, nice to see you. There's Kestrel. Jasper is really getting into this monitor tonight. There's Robert. Hi, Robert. Nancy Sims. Good to see you, Nancy. Let's see what else we have here. Brandy McCrum. Hey, Brandy. Zero Hedge. What's happening, Zero Hedge? Christine says, I just saw my sister, who was a nurse 30 years, thought she might wake up after this nonsense. Not a chance. Double down. Totally. Yeah, the double down is big. Jack Kairos. Hey, what's happening, Jack? Lynette is here. Lynette on the front lines. All right. We got a good lineup. Hey, the Crimmies are back. What's going on? K&S in the house. We got to come up with a blues name for Steve. Hey, Lynn, what's happening? You guys should come up with a blues name for Steve. He's got a, hi, Nancy. Steve blew me away, man. He totally blew me away. Oh, look who's in the house. It's Amy, the cheeky one. What's going on? What's going on, Amy? Kelly says, my plan B, which I'm working on right now, might be cleaning pools this summer. I used to clean pools too. Hey, there's Shanna. Yeah, Thor is great for Steve Mercer. There's Colleen. Hey, Colleen. Darcy's back. Hi, Darcy. Hello, Darcy. Nice to see you. Amanda Pomander. Amanda Pomander in the house. Nice to see you, Amanda. Amanda follows me over on Twitter. And then Mary. Hi, Mary. What's happening? You guys got to come up with a name for Crimmy, Steve Crimmy. You got to come up with a name for him, man. That was so cool. That was so cool. Paula Tuttle's in. Hey, Paula. Good to see you too, Paula. All right. I got to go to my, let's see, what are we doing here? Anna. Steve is awesome to look at. Which Steve are you talking about? You talking, I'm sure you're talking about Steve Crimmy. No doubt. No doubt. Let me download my charts here. I got a lot of charts to be downloading. We got here, save. Where am I save? You know what? I think I just pull these suckers right off. Let me see if I can pull them off. Maybe I just pull these bad boys off. Let's see what we got. Yes, I do. What do we got? No, I'm gonna have to download them. Let's try it again. This is my new computer. So, you know, I'm let's do this. I'm a Mac guy, so Chocolat bleu. I'm a Mac guy. We get the Rio Summit. Okay, that's cool. I'm just gonna get them all up. No, I don't want that one that high. Not that high. I'm a Mac guy, so learning the ins and outs of Windows is certainly an interesting event. Very interesting event. What if I pull this off here? Let's see what happens with that. Okay, let's see what we got there. Let's check that out. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that'll work. That'll definitely work. All right, so let me just grab a few more of these bad boys off of here. That should work out okay. Just open them up. And then let's do this. And let's pull that. Come on now. Oh. Now it doesn't want to play nice like the other one. All right, don't worry about it. I'll just zoom in on this email. Not a biggie. All right, let's get into the old Lord's Prayer here. Let's do that. Should we do that? Been saying that lately. I think it's a good thing. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day your daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Okay. Let's see. Where do I want to go? I need to go to astro.com so I can do a little chart of the moment action. Get into that. U.S. reaches plateau, nears 1 million cases. Social distancing could last months, Burks says. Looks like she's been socially distancing most of her life, doesn't it? That's what it feels like. Okay. The chart of the moment. Chart of the moment. Chart of the moment. Let's bring it on up. So this is where we look at the week ahead. And oh, come on. This horse goes, what? You're killing me, Astro. You're killing me. All right, let's show it up here. Let's try and bring it up one more time. There we go. Let's open it up. It is not playing fun or fair with me tonight. All right, it's okay. I don't need you to play fun or fair. I was never promised a rose garden. Did anybody ever promise you a rose garden when you were a kid? I was never promised a rose garden. What were you promised, though, that you didn't get? Everybody had one or two things. I was promised a swing set. Man, I so wanted a swing set. It's like waiting for that swing set. Get that swing set. It never happened. It's okay. It's all right. I got over it. All right, let me get back into share screen. I'm gonna just try this. I'm wondering, let me do this. I really just want I want the chart. I hate being told what to do by a freaking computer sometimes. I'm just gonna try another browser. I'm gonna be really audacious. Just try another browser. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. Oh, but I gotta change this. Uno momentito. Uno momentito, por favor. I have to change something here. It's all right. We get there. We'll get there. Mm-hmm. By the way, it was an outrageously beautiful day here in Central Texas. Looks like spring has finally arrived. Finally arrived. All right. Okay. There we go. All righty. Let's go back to this. Let's do some screen shareage. Mm-hmm. Where to go? Oh, I'm gonna have to do that now. Here we go. There it is. All right. Bada boom, bada bing. Oh, is this the one on Bing? Because it's gonna do this again. Oh, yep. See, damn. It is not. This is what happens when you use a piece of equipment that you're still learning a little bit on the fly with. All right. Let me disable that. And I guess I could do it like that. Whatever we got here. No. That's here. Do a little refresh. A little refreshment. There's just more than one way to skin a cat. You know what I'm saying? There's just more than one way to skin that cat. And I just skinned it. I skinned that cat. That's where it's at. Here we go. Chart of the moment brought to you by Jasper, the Astro Cat. All right, here we go. We got Scorpio on the ascendant. That's for right here, right now. So it looks like things get a little intense, maybe. We'll see. So the big action really is going down right here. Now, we've already seen the effects of the Saturn square to the sun and to some extent the Saturn square to Uranus. That's what I think, because we've been having this intense, very, very intense, how do I say it? It's an ongoing conflict with authority, right? Uranus squares off against Saturn. Saturn represents authority. Normally, in this, well, where it's been for the last 3 years, it's been in Capricorn. It's kind of addressed itself in the sign of Aquarius here. Now, what's interesting about astrology is that it's so broad and can encompass a number of different factors and a number of different scenarios, a number of different interpretations, right? So on the one hand, we have the Uranus Saturn square, and it's like people are saying, okay, we're done. We're done. We've got the salon owner who is not a revolutionary or radical. She's not up there wearing an Antifa mask, although she does wear a mask when she is working on the people. But she's, tearing up her summons, Right? She was given a summons, torn up. So we can see this taking place now. We can see the Saturnian Uranian clash start to take place, and even from this idea that there are people who are like, what do they call them? The Karens. The Karens are the Stasis. They're gonna tattle on you. The Karens have about 3 different phone apps on their phone to tattle on you, right? So we're seeing that happen. We're seeing that kind of group, begin to sort of rise in power, because what they've done, they've done a tremendous job, an absolutely tremendous job of essentially criminalizing and demonizing people that actually believe in the Constitution, or actually believe in the right to assemble freely, or actually believe in the right to be able to speak their truth, right? They've done a great job at demonizing these people. Now the people that say, hey, look, we want to go back out into society. We want our jobs back. We want our businesses back. We want some of our daily rituals back. These people now are being deemed dangerous. They're white supremacists. These are fascists. These are Nazis. This group is the one group that wants to assert their will and assert their point of view over the will of others, right? The individual versus the group. And here we come into the dynamics and even the polarity of Aquarius, right? Because it's like, here's the group. Stay home, stay home, stay home. As a group, you got to stay home. The individual says, hey, fuck it. I'm not staying home anymore. I've been staying home. I read, I look at the facts. I look at, some of the statistics. I look at what's going on with Sweden. I just saw this really amazing report from these 2 doctors in Bakersfield, and basically you're all full of shit. You're full of shit. The statistics say you're full of shit. So we have the individual who likes to think for themselves, and then we have the group who likes to have other people think for them, and then take that as a cudgel and just hit people over the head with it, and then try to make them feel guilty, and then try to shame them, essentially. And again, we can see this with the Uranus-Saturn square, right? And then you have Trump, and again, this is a lot of this has to do with Trump as well, because Trump is having a very difficult time, obviously. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel for Trump. I know a lot of people don't, like, oh, fuck him. He deserves what he gets, or what. I kind of feel for the guy, because he clearly has taken on a lot. And whatever kind of karma he's working on from other lifetimes, it's a big burn, man. It is just a huge, huge burn that he's working through. Don't you think? Right? I mean, just think about the 3 years this dude has had. Just think about it. I mean, from start to finish. And here we are, phase 3. He gets through this. You think this will be the end? Hell no. There's an election coming. If they ever decide they're going to open Congress back up again, or do whatever they're going to do you think that the Schiffs and the Pelosi's and the Schumers are just going to say, okay, we did our best. We did our best. Congratulations. You survived the test. You get another 4 years. Fuck no. They're going to make his life a living hell, and they're going to use it to polarize people moving forward. I just wish Trump had better people around him. I really do, to take these people on. And he's a clever guy. I think he's a very clever guy. And on Friday, I think he got into some heat around UV light and disinfectant. And so, but it was actually pretty interesting. It was pretty, he was really onto something. One of the things that he was talking about was with the disinfectant actually has to do with vaccines. And apparently vaccines have many things in them, and disinfectant being one of them. And he never said to shoot bleach inside of you. He never said to shoot Lysol inside of you, right? But he was talking about heat and light, injecting heat and light into the situation. He wasn't talking about into the body, but of course they want to run with it. And now they're trying to turn him into Biden. You see what they're doing? They're trying to turn him into Biden. It's like they're going to try to lower him. They're going to come at him. They're going to question his ability to function, right? They're going to want to essentially do what they always do, which is accuse somebody of exactly the thing that they're being guilty of. So they're going to try to make Trump worse than Biden. They're going to try to out Biden, have Trump out Biden. Meanwhile, on the Biden front, I'm sorry, little political stuff here. Meanwhile, on the Biden front, there's this woman, Tara Reade, who is not letting up on the Me Too allegations. Just not letting up. And Alyssa Milano, who basically says anybody that has a Me Too complaint should be taken, not only be taken seriously, but should not be doubted. They should be taken seriously. Well, she's not really singing that tune with Tara Reade, because Tara Reade is talking about Joe Biden and somebody who is representative of the party that Alyssa Milano has sworn her soul over to. So again, the high strange, and but this is what they do, right? So be ready, get ready, because they're going to go after Trump's competency. They're going to go after Trump's competency, because they're going to try to make him look more incompetent mentally than Biden. It's coming. It's coming. So again, what do we have here? We have the Uranus-Saturn square, which is taking place. This Uranus-Saturn square. It's the forces of this. It's kind of like irresistible, immovable object meets irresistible force. The Uranus-Saturn square. It's a collision. Saturn's going to move out of that square by the time we get into August, and it'll be a little bit better. But just because it moves out of the square, there's a lot of damage that can happen between now and then. And trust me, there's some very damaging. It's so amazing, right? That there's nothing going on, and yet so much is happening. So much is happening. So we have conflict. This is conflict right here. Saturn Uranus square is conflict. So one of the things that YouTube has gotten very heavy, super heavy, like if you criticize 5G in a YouTube video, your video's down. If you criticize 5G on Twitter, down. If you criticize 5G on Facebook, so you can always see, kind of where you're over the target, because they want to shut you down. If it wasn't that big of a deal, they wouldn't shut you down. They'd let you just kind of roll everything out, point their finger at you and say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. They would disassemble your argument, and then boom, you'd be done. But when you're over the target, they want to shut your ass down. They did it with vaccines. They're doing it with 5G. They've done it with some other highly controversial topics. Let's put it that way. So this is what's happening now. And Saturn and Aquarius are people. I mean, if you think of Aquarius as the internet, if you think of Saturn, Aquarius as the internet, social media, data gathering, science, all those kinds of Aquarian things that I do believe we can associate with Aquarius in the 11th house, particularly. Then we have Saturn. We have the authorities in that realm. People like Mark Zuckerberg, or Mark Zuckerborg, as I like to call him, Susan Wojcicki, Jack, what's his name from Twitter, right? So they're the authorities, right? They are the authorities. They're the Saturnian Aquarian authorities. And Uranus, which is the rebel cause, is like coming in and going, hey, look, this is not cool, right? This is what's going on. This is, 5G seems to be, and I say seems to be, connected to the, or, right? So this is what happens. And they don't like that. They don't want any criticism. They don't want it to gain any traction. They don't want other people getting this strange idea that there could be something wrong with 5G, because why? Their businesses and their business model depend on 5G. It's more than just an ideological sort of shakedown. Their business models depend upon it. Do you know how much more robust Facebook becomes when 5G is connected and they got the Internet of Things? And Facebook is actually scooping data from your freaking refrigerator, or the same thing with Amazon, right? I mean, just think about this now for a minute. This is how this game will work on some level, right? So let's say with your, bountiful UBI allowance that you get every month, Amazon is inside of your refrigerator. Okay, let's say they're inside your refrigerator, and they're watching your refrigerator. And Amazon knows that you really like Chobani yogurts. And Amazon knows that within about 2 more yogurts, your Chobani's going to go. And then if you have somehow clicked something, right, with the Chobani, like, oh yeah, refill me, when I get low or whatever, all of a sudden now the drone shows up and you got another, 6 or 7 or 12 Chobanis right there, right? This is how this will work. This is how it'll work, because they're going to be engaged in what is inside your refrigerator, and they'll order it for you. They will order it for you. This is just a benign level of the Internet of Things, and it goes even beyond that, way beyond that. Facebook can scoop data, Amazon will scoop data, your power company will scoop data. They'll all be scooping data, and they need 5G for this. And there's not one stop along the way where somebody's not making some kind of money, whatever the money's going to be like or look like along the way. So for them, it's not just this ideological thing, it is connected to their business model. And that's why they don't want people dissing it. They could give a rat's ass if you think that it's going to be connected to some virus and it's going to exacerbate some virus. Well, they only care about it they only care about it to the extent that it would damage their business model. That's what they care about. They want to make money off this thing. They want to control the grid. That's exactly what they want to do. So they don't want any bad press. They just don't want any bad press. So whether it's YouTube or whether it's Facebook, you're getting shut down. We're getting shut down with us. So that's, to me, that's Uranus versus squaring off against Saturn. And we actually have like more kind of egregious models of this, which is it. What's going to be really intense is when we get into that Mars Saturn square. When we get out into like October, November, Saturn's already gone retrograde. It's around 28 degrees. And we get Mars and Aries squaring off against Saturn at that time. Woo. That's going to be very intense. I mean, look, if they have not decided to open the valves a little bit here in the so-called land of the free, I'm telling you right now, when we get into that Mars Saturn square, the shit is going to hit the fan. It will not be benign. It will not be, a salon owner in Frisco, Texas, tearing up her summons. No, it's going to be way worse than that. Way worse than that. So they're actually they're at a kind of an interesting kind of precipice now. They're on an interesting precipice, and I'm sure they're all sitting around, listening to their demigod, their AI demigod. By the way, I wonder if the AI demigod had picked up the fact that the first sort of shot across the bow, the first real person who would, be the profile for this resistance would be a salon owner from Frisco, Texas. You think AI like got that granular? How close do you think AI got on something like that? Do you think it got within like 5%, 10%? Because maybe the AI is like, oh, this, like, I'll bet you the profile AI has is Eamon Bundy. They're like, ding, 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 ding. Okay, this is the guy, this is the guy, this is what the profile is. But no, it's a salon owner, a nail salon, hair salon owner in Frisco, Texas. See, this is what gives me hope. This is what gives me hope because, if I was The View, I would have that woman on my show, by the way, on that show. I would have her on the show, but they won't. It'd have nothing to do with her. Right. But I guarantee you, this woman, she's going to go viral. And I believe Tucker Carlson wind up interviewing her this week. She's going to go viral. She's going to become kind of the early face of this resistance in certain areas. And of course, there'll be the demonization as well. Oh, she cares about herself. She doesn't care about the people. And I read this comment on this message board today. And this is why sometimes I wish there was a real virus that would really wipe out about half of us versus whatever this thing is. Which is, by the way, very strange because there are people that have gotten sick, and there are people who have gotten really sick, and so we're dealing with various mutations of this. Whatever it is, but is it enough to warrant shutting everything down and using this as a way to kind of weaponize and balkanize the states? I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think so at all. But this woman's going to be I think she's going to be quite interesting. as we move through this time. And again, they're gonna go after her. They're gonna go after her because obviously she's white, she's blonde, she fits a certain profile. Right, she's going to fit a certain profile. But I was on this message board today, and this one again. This is why I kind of want the the real virus, or maybe the comet, to come in and just put a big crater, put a giant golf cup in the planet, right? But so this guy on this, I'm assuming it's a guy because I'm thinking a woman would talk like this. A woman would not have this perspective. And he says, oh, nail salons, beauty parlors, one of the worst fucking businesses. It's all about vanity and blah, 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 blah. These things should go. I'm like, it's like, who thinks like that? Who really thinks like that? And I thought about it. It's like, this person doesn't understand. Like, I get my hair cut here in town, and I've been seeing the same person cut my hair now for about 2 years. And she got moved from the hipster salon to the old lady salon. That's her gig now. She now cuts hair in the old lady salon, but I still go to see her. And I go in there, and what do I see? I see older women, and they're under the giant, the air domes, and they got they're getting colored, and they're getting some other services. And I'm like, these women need those places. They need the places. They need them because it connects them to their bodies. It connects them to the people that they talk to. And they gossip and shit like that. They do. And so these places aren't just about vanity. They perform a social function, just like barbershops do. You go into like the inner cities or the black neighborhoods, man, the barbershop is where it's at. Like, that is the hub. And those guys go in there and they get their hair cut and they talk shit and they talk about who's doing what and who's doing what and who's going on with this. And it's a social thing. We need that social thing. Just like in those places, they need those things so that these women, especially the older women, they can stay in touch with themselves, and and a lot of them don't get touched. They've got husbands who have passed away, or, they're probably not getting a lot of like TLC. So it's being touched, right? It's their hair getting touched, and, maybe the back being touched, by the, oh yeah, great. Oh, that's so funny. I mean, even something like that, right? It could make their day. And maybe that day is once a month, but it's still something, or once every 2 months. I don't know how often they go, but it's just so short-sighted. When did people just get so absolutely acidic? When did that happen? When did that happen? I mean, what happened to our humanity? And I'm not talking about this fake bullshit humanity, like the virtue signal humanity. That's not what I'm talking about, because that stuff is phony. It's bogus. But real humanity, it's just like the guy's got vinegar running through his veins. Anyway, when that Mars square comes up, late summer, we're going to get into August, September. Woo, man. Heavy. They better release the pressure valve before then. That's all I'm saying. Because, the worst case scenario is that these places just keep, it's like, okay, here's the line right here. Okay, we're going to step across the line. Oh, you're stepping across that line? Well, there's a new line now. And guess what's behind this line? This one was a summons. Guess what's behind this line? This line, we take you off in handcuffs. Okay, we cross that line. Oh, what's over here with this line? Well, this line is getting a little heavier. Until finally you get to the final line. And what are you seeing? You're seeing a phalanx of people in riot gear, shields, stun guns, right? That's the fun. That is the Maginot Line. That's not going to be for every state, by the way. That will not be for every state, unless some of these states just decide to kind of roll and, get into the whole kind of global commie party. But that's what's going to happen unless they, unloosen this thing, a little pressure out of the valve, right? But even now, we've got some square action happening too. Now, the sun is kind of moving away from Pluto, the early degrees here, starting to move away from the square. We do have Mercury in Aries, 28th degree, and that is definitely in square with Pluto. And as it gets into the conjunction coming up, this week in 2 days, conjuncting Uranus and conjuncting the sun. That's another very fractious moment. If this, boys and girls, we are not out of the woods by any. We're just getting into the woods. We are just getting into the woods, right? But this week, I think, could be very, very intense. A lot of rhetoric, a lot of intensity, and a lot of restlessness. You get Mercury and Uranus together. Taurus is a kind of a passive sign. It's placid, but these are not passive and placid elements at all. What happens when you awaken the bull? Oh, you got issues. You got issues if you awaken the bull. The other thing that's happening is, man, there's some seismic activity that has taken off. Okay, so we had some seismic activity in Krakatoa. We had seismic activity in Italy over the weekend, and we're talking big stuff. Big stuff. So the earth is beginning to shake and rattle and roll, right? And I would assume with the conjunctions coming up over the course of the rest of this week, that would be more the norm than not. So keep an eye on seismic activity, right? Big seismic activity this week. And one of the things I wanted to talk about with Steve and Chris that we didn't really get to touch on is the connection between these maps that we were seeing and our consciousness. Like, is it really just a coincidence that we're seeing, this fractured country in those maps, right? We're seeing the fractured country represented in those maps. And then what becomes predominant? Water. And what does water do? Water cleanses and it purifies. That's what it does. It's exactly what water does. So if we're fractured, if our psyche is fractured, if our culture is fractured, then it's not going to be very long until the very land itself will represent and mirror our own collective fracturing. I have no doubt about that. No doubt. And the only thing that can change it more than likely and cleanse it will be the influx of water. Now, I'm not hoping that's the way it is. I'd like to flip this script and we all wake up and boom, it's like everybody's on the same page and we're all like, oh yeah, like that guy. You remember? You see this guy? Yeah, it's there. It's not me. It's not you. Right. We got more in common together than we have with that. But they're always pulling us apart so we don't have that moment. I think some of that's coming now. I do think some of that's coming. And I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of people staying at home and there are people getting on the internet. And I was talking with my pal Jamie. Some of you met Jamie out here in Texas. Great guy. Love Jamie. I think he's like top 3 for me in Canada. I got some really, really great Canadian friends. Anand Canuck, Linda, fantastic. Jamie's right up there. Jamie and Linda, I think, are right there. But so Jamie is talking to me about his son. And he's like, his son, who has been kind of either in cryogenesis or kind of on the other side, is now waking up and he's starting to see things. It's like, oh, isn't that interesting? He kind of, he'd given up his son. Is like, okay, well, he's got his own life and maybe we won't see eye to eye. But now guess what? His son is starting to, dip his oar into the water and, hey, Dad, let's paddle in the same direction here for a little bit. I mean, that's what it feels like. So I'm actually encouraged. I'm encouraged that we can have people that are kind of on the cusp. It's kind of like they're in there's this battle for their souls in a lot of ways. This is where Gemini comes into play, right? There's a true note. It said 0 Cancer on my Mars. So I think there's this battle for these souls going on right now. And during this time, it's like, okay, we got another one. Oh, look, there's somebody with a mask on. We got another one. And then there's somebody's like, you know what? I'm not going to wear my mask. And then, the other side goes, oh, good. Come over here, my son. Come over here, my daughter. Right. And then the other side's, we got another one. I mean, it kind of feels like there's this very interesting, soft battle for souls happening. I think it's happening right now and we're seeing it. And if you're on kind of the awakened side, right, you're waking up, you're slumbering, right, all of a sudden you go, oh, what's going on here? What is really happening? What's going on with this planet, right? Rip Van Winkles of the planet are now starting to wake up. I think it's great. But I do feel like it's like now we're in this really interesting sort of psychic battle for souls. Doesn't it feel that way? Doesn't it feel that way? Social distance, social distance, social distance. All right. Speaking of Gemini, we got the moon, we got Venus, also in the sign of Gemini. What is it, like tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow night? I think tomorrow night we're gonna have that moon true node conjunction. That's very psychic. That's a very, very, very psychic moon. So pay attention to your dreams tomorrow night. Monday night, Tuesday night, Dreamland could be very interesting. Very interesting. We got a really nice Venus-Mars trine. That's a fantastic trine. It's creative, simpatico, nice action between the masculine and the feminine. We finally have some air. We have some air. We got Venus in Gemini, Moon in Gemini, Saturn, Aquarius, Mars, Aquarius. There's some air in the house. I thought it was really interesting that when we didn't have any air, everybody was having a hard time breathing. You know, we had like all the shit with the lungs going on. But now, guess what? There's more air. There's more light. There's more heat. Maybe Trump is right about this stuff. I think generally, by and large, we're looking at some conflict this week. We're looking at seismic activity this week. I also think for like the first, 3 days of the week, there's also the ability to kind of get along because Venus is going to be, 17, 18, 19, right? So for the next really 3 days, we're going to have a nice Venus-Mars trine. It's up until Wednesday, Thursday. You know, there's a way out with the Mars-Venus trine. You don't have to be in conflict. You don't have to polarize. Just find ways to get along when you need to. If you need to put the brakes on somebody or, put the hand up and go stop, you can do that too. See, we get to practice these things now. We get to practice these wonderful things like, stop, got a boundary, stop, got a boundary. Yes. Okay. I embrace you or I let you in. And when we get good with that, man, nothing can stop us. But what happens is that we don't do that. People have lost their ability to really discern and understand how to practice and exercise a function of the will. But that's changing. That is changing. I guarantee you. Oh, just wait till Mars goes into Aries. Whoa. You're going to see a bunch of people when Mars goes into Aries who have sat on their anger for a very long period of time. They're going to lose their shit. They're going to lose their shit. Mars squaring Pluto, Mars squaring Jupiter, Mars squaring Saturn. They're going to lose their fucking shit. Have you ever, like the first time you ever got really angry, like really, really angry, like cathartically angry? You ever have that moment? And like you've been sitting on anger your whole life. Your whole life, you've just been, trying to deal with the anger. And then there's the moment, right? Because people, by the way, people who cannot process their anger or who can't deal with anger, they're afraid if they get angry, they're going to kill somebody. That's what their biggest fear is. Trust me, because they're going to be out of control and they fight that all the time. They fight it. Oh, they do. My father gave me a great gift one time. I don't know. My father was cagey. He was really, really cagey. So one time I was actually stuck. I was having a kind of a difficult time. Saturn return. I was married very briefly, right? And divorced. It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? I had no plan. It's like, what am I going to do now? So I decided to go back down to California. I was living up in Washington State. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay with my parents for a while. And I'm going to go find a place in San Francisco, kind of restart my life in California. So I went there and I started, hanging out with them. And I watched my father just turn on me. And remember, this is a guy that had Mars and Scorpio. He just started to turn on me. He had Jupiter and Scorpio too. Started to turn on me. He was a psychological master. He would do shit in ways that to this day, I'm kind of, he was almost like an accidental shaman in some ways. My father was deep. So he's turning on me at every single step along the way. He's turning on me. So he's trying to help me, right? Get back on my feet, whatever. But he's also turning on me. Like he was not coddling me. And I didn't want to be coddled. I just kind of wanted to hang out, chill out, because I've been through a lot of stuff and I wanted to get back on my feet. but that's not where his head was at. And this was a kind of an interesting moment in time. So every time, he just kept turning up the volume and turning up the volume and turning up the volume, and coming at me and coming at me. And my father was a big dude too. He was a guy he was like a rebel without a cause. He was like that generation. He used to fight. He was a brawler. They'd go up into the hills around San Bruno and Millbrae, California, and they get two cars. They get the cars like this together, and they turn the lights on, and then he'd go in there, him and another guy. And this is what they would do. They'd beat the shit out of each other, right? I mean, that's what that generation did. So that was my father, okay? Anyway, so one night, it all gets to this boiling point. Massive boiling point when we go out to get pizza. It was me and him and my mother, and I think I was like I don't even think I had turned 30 yet. I think I was still 29 at that point. And so we're going to get pizza, and and you remember those little gumball machines where they sold the little square pieces of gum? They had the usually the Kiwanis Club or something like that, the green, the yellow. I love those gums, by the way. Those are my favorite gums. Anyway, we're done with the pizza. I throw in a quarter, whatever. I get my gum. And I'm sitting in the back of their car, and he's going at me again. He's like, "You come," and like I snap. Okay, I've had enough. I'm in the back seat of their car, and we're getting ready to go on the freeway, and I've had enough. And I take these gums and I throw them at him, right? And I hit him in the back of the head. And we're going to the freeway as this thing is happening. And he turns around, he goes to grab me, right? And it's a 4-door. This car is a 4-door. Thank God it was a 4-door. So he slams on the brakes as we're getting on the freeway. And I jump out of the car. And I'm there on the on-ramp of the freeway, right? I'm like, okay, this is it. This is where it's going to go down. Me and my old man are going to throw down on the on-ramp of this freeway. And I'm like, and I know that if my father gets going, I mean, I can take care of myself, but that guy, he's in another class. So I get out of the car and I'm waiting for him. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And things are happening really quickly, right? Really, really quickly. And it's like he opens the door of the car and I'm like, I'm going to slam the fucking door on his ankle. I'm going to break his fucking ankle. Right, because I'm going to disable him and then I'm going to take him down. And that's exactly what I was going to do. And I look down at his ankle and he sees me look at his ankle and he knows that I'm going to slam the door on his fucking ankle. And he pulls his ankle back into the car and then he shuts the door and he shoots off. And there I am on the side of the freeway. I'm like, fuck. That was like really intense, right? It was really intense. And then what happened was I eventually went back home and I thought, he's going to kill me. This guy's going to kill me. And I came back home and I walked into their condo and I'll never forget the scene. He's laying down in the bed in his bedroom and he's laying in his shorts and I can see the blue glow of the TV, the color glow of the TV. He's not saying anything. And I went into the room and I was saying, and I just lost it. I just cried my ass off and I felt all this intense grief, right? Grief. Because that's what's beneath anger is grief. It's grief. And that was one of the greatest gifts my father gave me. Was to just get on my ass. And I don't know if he was like conscious of that or whether I was just kind of the function of, that Jupiter Mars conjunction in his second house. I mean, we made up, we were friends after that. We were okay. We did fine, but it was tremendous. And it was great. I'll tell you why, because I wasn't held hostage by my anger after that. I just wasn't. I really wasn't. And I think that people that have a hard time expressing their anger or afraid of it, that's what they're sitting on. And with Mars goes into Aries and it starts squaring Pluto and it starts squaring Jupiter and it starts squaring Saturn, look out. Because the people that have not processed their anger, they're gonna blow. They're just gonna freaking blow. Anyway, the week ahead, I see things continuing to mount, especially as we get into like Thursday and Friday and the weekend. If we get into some protest action this weekend, which we probably will, right? And then we've got the Mercury-Uranus conjunction squaring off against Saturn. And even beginning when Mercury gets into the Mars square, that'll be pretty intense too. Very intense. So get ready, boys and girls, unless they decide to open the floodgates, and I don't think you're going to do that anytime soon. Maybe in some states, a little pressure valve release, but keep your eyes on the quote unquote blue states. Keep your eyes on those states because I think those blue states are going to go code red. All right. Let me do this. Stop share. And let me check in with you guys, see where you're at. Going to get in some charts now. Let's see what's happening here. Right there. Okay. There you go. The treadmill helps you process anger. Yeah, that's good. That's good. What does code red mean? Code red is like alert, alert, alert. It is alert. You got to express anger and grief. Absolutely. We all need to grieve now. Yeah, sometimes anger is very cathartic to get to the grief. I had a physical fight with my father once, which I still regret. I don't blame you, David. It's not a good thing to do. And we got really close. So, we were okay with it at the end of the day. When people lose it all, they lose it. Solente. Yes. I got an electric pole saw and I felt like going out and ripping up those ugly plants. What does that mean? Anna had a terrible day at work. Nothing was going right. I got so mad. I went to the ladies' room and cried. There you go. Anna's on it. Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I thought you lived downtown looking for kindred souls here. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Good to see you, Jeff. Haven't seen you in a while. Oh, San Diego County. Oh, good. You got some San Diegans. Let's see. Who else? What else? Chiclets. They weren't they were chiclet looking, but they had a different kind of flavor than the chiclet. Yeah, my father was a hairdresser. My father was a complex dude. He was a very complex guy. I have to say, my father was one of the most interesting fucking people I ever met. He was a very, very interesting cat. Super interesting cat. Okay. Well, why don't we get into, oh, you know what? I got to tell you just real quick. I got a client, really, really cool guy, cool young guy. And he lives up in the Portland area. And we're talking about, aggression and stuff and how he got himself he's been my client for a while. Super, super cool young dude. I love working with him. And he was so responsible, tons of integrity, really sensitive. He's got like 5 planets in Scorpio. And we were talking about, processing things. And he said, yeah, I said, and you wouldn't think that he's kind of like, but he got himself a big bag, one of those big, heavy punching bags. And when he feels like things are really intense, he just goes out there and he wails on this thing, right? He wails on it. So he can move the energy and move the aggression, which I highly recommend. Good stuff. All right. Let's get into some charts. We got the chart of the moment. I get rid of that now. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Okay. All right. Where is this? I just had this up. All right. Okay, so some of the charts I want to go over tonight are pretty interesting. We got 2 new subscribers. Welcome. By the way, I am thinking about having an event in the fall. It's been kicking around in my head, but I may not have it at the hotel. I'm thinking about maybe trying to find a house somewhere, like a big house with some land. Right. So I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna look around. And if I do it, if I figure something out, if I find something, we'll figure out a way to communicate about that. All right. All right. So one of the things that was really interesting, I want to tip my cap to Joel. I know Joel listens and watches sometimes and is a super cool guy. He lives up in Minnesota. And a long time ago, I was working with Joel, doing some astrology stuff, and he had this chart for vaccines. So there are two really interesting vaccine trials that took place, both of which took place in 1954. And of course, Jonas Salk was the guy who was driving those trials. You know what's really interesting about, I got to find this one thing. Let me see if I can grab it. Hold on. I'm going to show it to you guys. Okay. Right there. It's going to work. Yeah. I got to preview this. Okay. Okay. So bring this up here. So there are these, there are two vaccine trials that take place in 1954. One is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Salk had his first institute. The second one, which was much more public, occurs in Falls Church, Virginia. That's the one that the public sort of wraps its head around. Okay. And both of them take place in 1954. One, we're coming up on the anniversary of that trial. The other already passed. So it's the one in Falls Church that gets the most publicity. One of the things that was quite interesting about the polio vaccine was the fact that theoretically it was something that was impacting lots of children during that time, and I can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, and I'm not an expert by any chance, but I can't help but think that maybe that there was something dietarily that was going on with people at a certain age where they may not have gotten something. And so that polio might have been one of the results of something that was lacking in their diet. I'm just speculating here. Okay. I'm just speculating. That's my speculation. And I know polio still happens around the world. And of course, one of the more famous cases of polio happened not long ago when Bill Gates decided to take billions of dollars from the Indian government and go in and basically give kids in India 50, count it, 50 polio shots before the age of 5. I mean, WTF with that, right? 50. And that's the truth. And the amount of vaccine injuries that took place during that time, off the charts. Like, these kids were crippled even far worse than if they ever had polio, or might have even been potentially exposed to polio. It was really bad. So finally, the Indian government says, you got to stop this. You are killing us. You're killing our kids. You're crippling them. Guess what? The WHO comes up with this statistic. Oh, gee, polio worldwide is down. I wonder why the fuck it's down. It's because Bill Gates stopped injecting these poor kids in India with 50 polio shots from between the ages of 0 and 5. Okay. And I just can't understand how somebody like Bill Gates, because he's probably not human, by the way. I mean, how can he live with this weight on his soul that his foundation ruined literally millions of lives? If not directly, then indirectly. How does somebody like that sleep at night? The only thing I can think is they just have no soul whatsoever. All right. So let's check out. So why was polio such a big deal? And who or what pushed polio and the vaccine over the finish line? FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, of course, had most of his presidency in a wheelchair. When you saw him, he was in a wheelchair. So theoretically, he had suffered paralysis. And that might be true. I don't know. But when we look at history, right? When we look at history, can we really believe the majority of how history has been told to us? I would say the answer is, probably not. And in some cases, absolutely not. So I found this film on CNN. It's a very rare film that showed up, and it's Roosevelt actually walking. Okay, this was theoretically after he was paralyzed. Now, I'm not saying that he wasn't paralyzed, but you have to ask yourself the question: what did this guy do behind closed doors? So I'm going to play the video. Here we go. This is about 30 or 40 seconds, but it's Roosevelt walking, not in a wheelchair, when during this time, that's all he was supposed to be in. Here we go. Okay. So they didn't want people to feel sorry for or pity Roosevelt. And that's why the press corps was told never to shoot him while he's getting in and out of cars. Okay. Or maybe they really wanted to convey the fact that Roosevelt was crippled, that he was in a wheelchair, right? And I think most people kind of knew that. I could be wrong. But what's interesting is that Roosevelt is the guy, he is the symbol of selling the polio vaccine. Now, I'm not saying that he really wasn't a cripple or a gimp. Okay. I'm not saying that. But to what degree? And we know that these people lie. Okay. They lie. So would it be uncommon for them in some ways to hide the fact that he was actually somebody who could walk? And would it make the polio vaccine or the push for the polio vaccine, like he was the reason why in a lot of ways, besides the kids, right? It's just a question. It's a question. That's all it is. But I thought it was interesting to find this because he's the guy that pushes the polio vaccine across the finish line. So let's look at one of those vaccines astrologically. Okay. Here we go. This is the chart. This is the February 23rd chart, 1954. And of course, it probably had private trials with the vaccine. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they gave a monkey or, a rat or a rabbit some form of polio. I don't know how they would do that. Maybe that's what they did. But this is in Pittsburgh. This is near the Salk Institute. So there's interesting things going on with this chart. And 10 a.m., it's like open for business. Let's bring a few kids in here. Let's shoot them up, right? So the thing that really jumped out at me, and you're going to see this, right? It's the true node. Remember how I've been talking about how the nodal axis with Capricorn and Cancer just seems to be so freaking pivotal. And I'm going to show you another chart tonight. Same deal, right? So this is a really, really, really pivotal, and I mean a pivotal time. Because what we have here is we have the ascendancy of government. It's post-war. This is obviously after Roosevelt, so I think we're in the Truman era. But again, it's kind of this greater ascendancy The government's starting to take more power, post-war. This is happening. And we also have Chiron here in the sign of Capricorn, which is the wounded healer. And polio, which is quite in some ways interesting. I'd like to learn actually more about polio. It's affecting the musculature, right? The musculature, the joints, tendons, but mostly I think the joints and the skeletal system, the back, the hips, the knees. Roosevelt had theoreticus work with braces. That's all very Capricornian, by the way. And then here we have Uranus at that time conjuncting the South Node. And this is very experimental, like Uranus is science. So we have this opposition here. We have this opposition. And I'm going to just throw this out. Are we presupposing now? Are we presupposing that this moment in time is a precursor for the time we're living in now? Because guess what? Look where Pluto is. It's right there. It's right on this true node. Jupiter, it's gone over the top a little bit, but it's going to be coming backwards, and it's going to be conjuncting the midheaven. It's going to be conjuncting Chiron. And again, we're dealing with the nodes, right? So this is a seminal event. And here we are with the transit, and it's right there hanging out on the true node. And what are we talking about now? We're talking about vaccines. We're talking about vaccines for coronavirus. And this is the very first vaccine, theoretically, for the polio trial. And it's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And look, we have here Jupiter, Gemini, right? Gemini always seems to show up in a lot of ways. We got a T-square. I think that there's like something really disingenuous about this chart. Very disingenuous. Because we have this T-square with all these Piscean planets, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and on their own, they're not bad. They're interesting. Like, this could be interesting. Sun, Venus conjunction, kindness, tenderness, creativity, empathy, spirituality, sensualness. You get into that water, that nice watery Pisces feel, very sensual, right? Mercury comes in, it's retrograde, but it's adding its own kind of interesting flavor. To me, this would be having sex and then regretting it. Oh, fuck, I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty about this shit. All right. So, but what we also have, this T-square. There are two T-squares going on here. And Mars, which is, theoretically the hammer of truth in the sign of Sagittarius, is squaring off against Pisces. It's an interesting square, right? It's a very interesting square because to me, how I'm viewing this, and again, this is a group study, a group trial on this day. And I'm betting the time is pretty close too, by the way. And what we have is Mars, which is saying, okay, we're going to get to the truth, but it's squaring off against sort of this group energy, this Piscean group energy. And there can also be a great deal of like propaganda around this, like almost kind of a ritual, like a religious ritual in some ways. A baptism of inoculation, right? With the Mars squared all the kind of this Piscean energy. And then we have Jupiter coming in, and Jupiter in the square hypes things up. Oh, hypity, hype. Let's find out what's going to happen. Oh, it could be good. It could be bad. We don't care because, Gemini doesn't give a shit. Gemini's like, okay, well, Gemini's an immoral. I'm not saying that Gemini people don't give a shit. That's not true. But Gemini is a very amoral sign. It's an amoral sign in a lot of ways. Oh, what happens if we do this? What happens if we do this? What happens if we do this? This is how Gemini operates. It collects data. There's no judgment around the data in many cases. And so we have the square here, which is kind of hyping this, right? And it's going to make it bigger, right? Because the idea here is that this is the first step, and they're going to make this thing bigger. They're going to start here, and they're going to go into Falls Church, Virginia, and it's going to be nationwide, and it's going to become part of, right, the vaccine schedule for everybody. But there's some challenges with this, also with this T-square, because we have Neptune squaring Chiron, and we have Neptune squaring Uranus, and the Neptune-Chiron square, to me, says this is faulty. This is faulty. When you get into Neptune squares, it's about Neptune squares can be very challenging. I've talked about this before. So again, we're dealing with administration. We're dealing with administration on a number of different levels, right? We're dealing with Capricorn as an image of administration, hierarchies and administration, right? But there's also a risk here because there's the venturing into a different kind of world. Chiron being pharmaceutical, theoretically the healer, right? The wounded healer. So this is a very interesting moment because you know damn well that the government is going to jump in and say, okay, we're going to go with this, right? But Neptune over here, especially in Libra, which is about litigation, by the way, Libra, to me is saying that this has the potential of going out of balance because of the connection with the sign of Libra. And there's also a disingenuous nature. When you get into Neptune squares or people that have, Neptune squares, or you're going through a Neptune square in your life, you've got to fight through, the illusion, right? You've got to fight through things and try to understand, what's real or not real, who the victim is, who the perpetrator is. Are they the victim? Are you the victim? Are you the perp? Are they the perp? When you get into those Neptune squares, you've got to really be very thorough. You got to be clean. You got to, it's a very interesting dynamic. Stay sober, get sober with Neptune squares. So there's something here, right? Just in this moment that is absolutely not clear. And where's Neptune hanging out? In the 6th house, which is health, service, purpose, and healing. Right. And then we have the square down here, and it's squaring both the nodes, south node and squaring. It's like, how I would interpret this is like, this was too early. Like, if they're going to play around and mess around with the vaccines, this is too early. It is too early. There's something about the actual application of whatever they're doing that is not, that's what I'm looking for. It is not honest. It's not honest. So we got 2 T-squares going on here, and they're not quite in a grand cross, but they're there. There's some interesting stuff because Uranus says this is going to happen fast, right? Boom, fast. And then over here with Saturn and the moon, I would see this as being support, right? This is the support of Saturn in Scorpio, and it's fervent support, right? So there's support coming from 2 different areas. Uranus, again, being the ruler of Aquarius, it's going to be scientific. It's going to be different. Like, who is doing vaccines, right, at this level? And then Saturn represents hierarchies of administration. So we have some version of science, but with the South Node there, I think it's faulty science. That's what I think. And by the way, were the vaccines dirty? More than likely. These were not clean vaccines. Hello, Neptune square to Chiron, right? Pandora's box. So this is the first trial. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing Pluto come back to where Chiron was in the chart at that time. See, I think, we need to go back to the polio vaccines. We need to go back to ground zero and really look at those vaccines. And I'm sure on some level they were probably effective. But again, was there something dietarily that people were not getting during that time? It's kind of like with rickets. Once people started to get vitamin C into their life, the rickets went away. But instead, they went after the vaccine. And I don't think this is a great chart for the vaccine. It's not. Well, again, what's being supported here is sort of this kind of intense. By the way, you got Moon in Scorpio, which is not going to let go. It's very intense. So we have hierarchies in administration, these governing bodies vis-a-vis Saturn supporting. And then again, what I would say would be faulty science because of the South Node conjunction of Uranus supporting this group experience, this experiment, really. And it's a faulty one. And there's a fervor. The Mars square is a fervor. There's drama around this thing. All right. So that's one chart. Oh, by the way, Neptune's just been on this the Mercury here for this chart as well. All right, so let's go. Let's go into this other chart. Which one is this? That's Jonas Salk's chart. Oh, come back. Come back. Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk. You know, he worked on an HIV/AIDS vaccine. Do you know that? Called Remune. Remune. Did not do so well, by the way. They did a trial in Thailand. Let's just say it didn't go well. Did not go well. All right, that's the one in Pittsburgh. Oh, you got to go. Jasper, you're in the way, man. Oh, Jasper, I love you. But come on. Come on, bro. All right. Here's the other one. Okay. So this is the trial that is the one that really goes public. And this is the one from Falls Church. And again, I have it around 10 a.m. They get the first kid. There's a kid, forget his name, it's associated with getting the first shot. A similar chart in some ways. Okay, so we still have the square here. Now, Chiron is right at the edge of Capricorn, again, transiting Pluto. And what do we see? We see that true node there, right again in Capricorn. Heavy Capricorn energy this time, selling this thing. Moon in Capricorn, Mars in Capricorn. And look at what we have here. We got transiting South Node right now at 2 degrees. Actually, at 0 right now. But it's been conjunct this moon, the moon of this event. So really, for all intents and purposes, we should be really looking again at this event. We should be looking at some of the factors. What happened to the kids? And what kind of conditions did they have? What kind of conditions, did they go through? Did they suffer any setbacks from this first trial, right? And I think some of them actually did. We still have Neptune here squaring Chiron, right? There's still the Neptune-Chiron square going on. Now, this time, the South Node is right on the ascendant. And I'm assuming about 10 a.m. in the morning, right? 10 a.m. in the morning, they're making that first kid get that first fucking shot. And it's right there with the ascendant being Cancer. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We care about you. So in this moment, I mean, even give or take an hour, I could back it off and do an hour before maybe, and an hour, about half hour before, half hour after, 9:30, 10:30, it's still going to be in Cancer, right? Either early Cancer or later Cancer, doesn't really matter. But right here at this time, we get the South Node on the ascendant, which means there's vulnerability in the system. It's going right into the system, right through the front door of the chart. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that we have the sun at 2 degrees in Taurus. So we're kind of right there right now, right? I mean, we got the sun at 6 Taurus, Sun-Uranus conjunction. So we go back, 6 days or 4 days? 4 days, we're at April 23rd. This was the anniversary of the first vaccine in Falls Church, Virginia. That was the real public study. So this is 1954. So we're talking 6 years. So, right. This is the 66th anniversary of that. Wrap your head around that. Don't you love that number? 66. So here we are. We're getting ready to come up with the next big vaccine 66 years after this one. You think there's any mistakes around this? I don't think so. We have Pisces on the midheaven. Oh, it's for the good of all, right? The good of all. We don't have the same T-squares, but we have a different T-square. We have the sun in Taurus squaring Chiron, and then we have the sun in kind of a wide opposition with both Neptune and Saturn, right? And squares produce energy. Mercury square the ascendant, Mercury square the South Node, and then the opposition with Mercury wide to Neptune, forcing it. We're going to force it, right? And transiting Mercury is where today it's at 28. So it's right around there. So this is and again, there are the nodes. These nodes are, whenever we go through major culture shifts, major culture cycles, remember we saw these nodes again. Where did we see them? We saw them during the Gulf War. We're going to see them again when we look at the chart of the Rio Summit. We saw them in 9/11, right around that time. Cancer, Capricorn. Here we fucking go again. Cancer, Capricorn. Hello? And what are we dealing with Cancer Capricorn? We're dealing with either contagions or virus or anthrax or plague. Boom. There it is again. God forbid. I mean, I can't wait till we get out of Cancer fucking Capricorn. We'll have something else to deal with, but at least it won't be this, right? At least we're getting out of this where they're like just forcing this major cultural change on us every time these nodes come into existence. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it. I'm going to show it to you again when I go to the Rio chart of the Rio Summit. Anyway, this stuff's crazy. I mean, to me, the big crazy is the Neptune square to Chiron. That's a bad aspect to start trotting out vaccines. I don't think these were clean vaccines. I don't think they were clean. And I don't really know a lot, by the way. I haven't looked into that vaccine. I know some people have. I haven't looked into it all that much. I know that there a lot of the vaccines are dirty. I think this is a dirty vaccine. Neptune Chiron square right there. It's in the stars. All right. So who was Jonas Salk? Who was he? Well, let's find out, shall we? Who was this man? Who was Jonas Salk? One of the greatest Americans, one of the greatest humans of all time. The modern version of Louis Pasteur, Anthony Fauci, Louis Pasteur, Jonas Salk, Robert Gallo. Fauci following the footsteps. You know that fucking Fauci sees himself that way too, right? He sees himself. There's Fauci, there's Salk, and then there's Pasteur, right? You know that little horse jockey sees himself that way. All right, here we go. This is Mr. Salk's birthday, and this is his actual birth time. Apparently, it's a AA chart. Born October 28th, 1914. He is a Scorpio. This guy is he's gonna make it. He was born to Lithuanian Jewish parents in New York City. Went to the City College of New York. Went to another college, and he was apparently quite smart. This Jonas Salk fellow, brothers, sisters. One of his brothers, I think, was a famous lawyer. Anyway, the thing about Salk that's interesting, okay, which I didn't know about until I kind of dove into the Salk land, is that he considered himself to be a bioethical immunologist. So Salk wasn't just somebody who decided to make bad things go away. He saw himself in what he did as part of a greater whole, right? He saw himself as being, for all intents and purposes, like a high priest. Like he wasn't just here to solve viral plagues or viral problems. He was here to solve society's problems. I gotta show it to you. I just can't let this thing go. Hold on. I'm gonna bring it up here. Let's see, where are we? Am I still doing the screen share? Let's see what we got. Let's see. Hold on. Then we have the Jonas Brothers. Not related. The Jonas Brothers are their own plague. No, I'm just kidding. I like the Jonas Brothers. I listen to their music. They seem all right. I'm not gonna rant on the Jonas. Oh, there he is. Now, if I didn't tell you, I'm sorry. But if you didn't know this was Jonas Salk, right? And if I told you that this was Harvey Kleinman, and he was one of the more famous mass murderers from Iowa back in the 1930s, would you argue with me about that? I'm sorry, but look at that face. Look at that face. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'll try not to be judgmental here. But if I told you that, would you think that if I said, oh, yeah, this is a Harvey Kleinman, this guy, he killed about uh, 18 people in Iowa back in the 1930s. Oh, what happened to him? Never heard of it. I know, right? It's creepy. But if I told you that, would you have an issue with that in some ways? Probably not. All right, here we go. There he is, Jonas Salk. Man, he went from 1960, he founded the Salk Institute in La Jolla. Ooh, from Brooklyn to La Jolla. That's a good ride. I got to show you. There's the polio research. Here he is. Hey, look what we got. It's party time. Party time. The March of Dimes. Maintaining his individuality. If Salk the scientist sounds austere, Salk the man is a person of great warmth and tremendous enthusiasm. He's a man. Got Mars and Scorpio on the ascendant. This is an intense dude. He's intense. He's got Mars and Scorpio. It's right on the ascendant. I wouldn't cross him. Not with that aspect. Okay. Salk. Okay, here it is. Salk's biophilosophy. In 1966, the New York Times referred to him as the father of biophilosophy. According to Times journalist and author Howard Taubman, he never forgets. There was a vast amount of darkness for man to penetrate. That is so Mars and Scorpio on the ascendant, isn't it? A vast amount of darkness, that penetrating Mars on the ascendant. Where is it now? As a biologist, he believes that his science is on the frontier for tremendous new discoveries. And as a philosopher, he is convinced that humanists and artists have joined the scientists to achieve an understanding of man and all his physical, mental, and spiritual complexity. Such interchanges might lead, he would hope, to a new and important school of thinkers he would designate as biophilosophers. Salk told his cousin Joel Cassidy at a meeting of the Congressional Clearinghouse on the Future. Congressional Clearinghouse on the Future. What are they? The Clearinghouse in the Future. What does that sound like? It sounds like they're selling the fucking future, doesn't it? We're going to sell the future. We're just going to clear it out of here, right? We're just going to auction off the future. In Capitol 1984, that he was optimistic that ways to prevent most human and animal diseases would eventually be developed. Salk said people must be prepared to take prudent risks, since a risk-free society would become a dead-end society without progress. Oh, well, why can't we apply that to social distancing? Wouldn't that be a prudent risk? So that, or re-entering our lockdown domain, wouldn't that be a prudent risk? Because if we don't, we're going to have a fucking dead-end society. I'm going to tell you that right now. Salk describes his biophilosophy as the application of a biological evolutionary point of view to philosophical, cultural, social, and psychological problems. So from his perspective, as a scientist, the guy creating the vaccines, he can solve everything. He went into more detail in two of his books, Man's Unfolding and The Survival of the Wisest. In an interview in 1980, he described his thoughts on the subject, including his feeling that a sharp rise and an expected leveling off of the human population would take place and eventually bring in a change of human attitudes. Oh, I think of biological knowledge as providing useful analogies for understanding human nature. People think of biology in terms of such practical matters as drugs, but its contribution to knowledge about living systems and ourselves with the future will be equally important. In the past epoch, man was concerned with death, high mortality. His attitudes were anti-death, anti-disease, he says. In the future, his attitudes will be expressed in terms of pro-life and pro-health. The past was dominated by death control. In the future, birth control will be more important Oh, oh, sounds like we're bordering a little bit on eugenicism. Just a little bit. How about that? These changes we're observing are part of a natural order and to be expected from our capacity to adapt. It's much more important to cooperate and collaborate. We are the co-authors with nature of our own destiny. His definition of biophilosopher is someone who draws upon the scriptures of nature, recognizing that we are the product of the process of evolution. Okay, well, we got a problem right there. And understands that we have become the process itself through the emergence and evolution of our consciousness, our awareness, our capacity to imagine and anticipate the future and to choose among alternatives. Just prior to his death, Salk was working on a new book along the theme of biophilosophy, privately reported to be titled Millennium of the Mind. So this guy wasn't just a scientist. No, he was somebody who wanted to shape the future and bring all these things together. Look, I don't blame him. I think it's kind of interesting on some level, right? I think it's remotely interesting, but it's based on his perception of the world, his perception of science, his perception of the future, his perception on systems of control, his perceptions of evolution. That's what it's based on. And he being the high priest of science, well, of course, those perceptions are clearly infallible, right? So if that is his modus operandi, if that's where he's coming from, do you think that Fauci or Gallo or Gates or whomever are cut from a very different cloth? I guarantee you they don't. They have their own version of biophilosophy. And they see themselves as the shaper of humanity's destiny by being interdisciplinary and bringing all these things theoretically together, right? There's a little Jonas Salk. I bet you didn't know that about Jonas Salk. Okay, let's go back to the chart. There's the chart. So he's a 12th house guy. 12. What do you get with Salk? Well, you get Mars. And I'm sure he's a bright guy. He's got Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. It is retrograde. He's got a bit of a, you can see, man, he's got this kind of like delusion of grandeur stuff. And I bet you privately, if you really sat down with him and he poured out his thoughts, you'd be like, whoa, dude, that's way over the top, right? He's got a Jupiter square to his sun. And he's got Jupiter conjunct Uranus, which is, he's believing in science, man, in a big fucking way. That Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, third house, the mind. He's bright, though. I mean, the guy's, I'm sure he's bright. I mean, this is not this is not a kind of a small factor here in the third house. It's actually experimental. It's big, the big idea. Obviously, they got a big idea. There's a lot of big ideas. The challenge is they're squaring off against his sun. And even I think in the face of probably danger or setbacks, he would push on. Are you kidding me? Mars on the ascent. This guy would not take no for an answer. Nope. He would not take. And even the square with Mars and Jupiter. There's also something here about his chart that I actually think is kind of borderline sociopathic, right? I think with Mars on the ascendant, conjunct Mercury, conjunct the ascendant, squaring Uranus, squaring Jupiter, this is by any means necessary chart. Yeah, he's breaking things down. He's leaping into the future. He's very future oriented, right? Instead of like, orange juice for rickets, he's into creating something else. But this is by any means necessary. By any means necessary. He's got a ton of water. So, he's not lacking water, but is his water empathic? He's got a grand trine here with Pluto and the sun and the moon. And it's a kite pattern, but this grand trine is quite something. Look at this right here. What are we dealing with right there? Hello, true node. And it's right on his freaking Pluto. Right on his Pluto. Hello. There's the chart. I mean, the nodes are in different places. We've got Aquarius. What is it? Pisces, Virgo. But this is the true node right now going in through his 8th house, and it has been. And it's almost as if the spirit of Salk has been resurrected, right? The spirit of biophilosophy has been resurrected. And guess what? Tony Fauci is 2 degrees Capricorn. So he's opposing Salk's Saturn and Salk's Pluto. And I'll bet you he aspires to be like Salk. I bet she's got a little Salk shrine. Interesting. This is a guy that got shit done, though. You can tell with this Grand Trine, but it was behind the scenes. This is behind the scenes. Saturn, Pluto stuff right here, 8th house, that's money. That's research money, big research money. Saturn, Pluto in the 8th house. Bigly. The other thing, too, though, he's got a Neptune Mars square. Neptune Sun square. Disingenuous, right? Neptune Sun squares. People with Neptune Sun squares have at times addiction problems. I've talked about this before, but sometimes with Neptune Sun squares, people can be convinced that they're doing the right thing, right? The Neptune Sun square, oh, I'm doing God's work. I'm doing God's work, Neptune Sun square. But they're really misguided. They can be really misguided with the Neptune Sun square. And I think it caught up with him with this HIV drug that he created called Remune. Let me see if I can find it here. Let's see. Where was it? Salk described his ambitious plan for the creation of a kind of Socratic academy where the supposedly alienated 2 cultures of science and humanism of a favorable atmosphere for cross-fertilization. This guy had big ideas, huh? He had really, really big ideas. Let's see. Polio research, medical school, Remune. I'm trying to find the Remune stuff. This is it back in the 1980s. Oh, here it is right here. AIDS vaccine work beginning in the mid-1980s. Salk engaged in research to develop a vaccine for AIDS. So he was there with Gallo and Fauci. They were around there at the same time. So Fauci knew Jonas Salk. He co-founded the Immune Response Corporation, IRC, with Kevin Kimberline and patented Remune, an immunologic therapy, but was unable to secure liability insurance for the product. The project was discontinued in 2007, 12 years after Salk's death. So they tried, but apparently they went to Thailand and it didn't really work out quite well. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, so we got Salk. We have, where am I? Let's do this. We have vaccines. What is this here? This is the false church chart. Okay. Okay, we have, what is this? Let's look at Roosevelt's chart. Here's the other guy that I was talking about. I'd never looked at Roosevelt's chart before. So there he is. Mr. Aquarius. Sun Venus conjunction. Look at all these freaking squares right here. Boom, 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 boom. Again, 8th house. He's an 8th house guy. Big 8th house. Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, all Taurus. Interesting. Very interesting. What's the sun doing? Sun is squaring Jupiter. Sun is squaring Saturn. Sun is squaring Neptune. Another person who's disingenuous, right? Misguided. Totally misguided. Sun Neptune square. He's right in there with Salk, right? Sun Saturn square. The Sun Saturn square, by the way, that could be an aspect that could be related to polio. I will say that. I will totally say that. Polio. I mean, Saturn ruling the skeletal system. I could bite on that. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And then Sun Jupiter square. Again, people have Sun Jupiter squares. Sometimes they can be. Sometimes they can have really big ideas. Okay, and clearly he had a big idea. This WPA thing, turning America socialist. That's a big idea. It doesn't get much bigger than that, does it? That's a really big fucking idea. Like, hey, I got a great idea. It's a big one. What is it, FDR? Let's turn the United States into a communist country. Hey, that is a really big idea. I know, right? How can we do it? Well, first of all, we're going to get into a war. Really? Yeah, that's right. And then what? Then we're going to become really good friends with Joe Stalin. Really? And then what? Well, I got this thing called the WPA. We're going to spend all kinds of money. All these people that we wiped out during the Depression, they're going to need jobs. So we're going to give them jobs. And guess what? The government's going to become really, really big. We're going to have kind of more social structures and more social programs, and we're going to start to become more and more communist. That's my big idea. What do you think? Hey, FDR, that sounds like a winner. So there we go. Jupiter, Sun Jupiter, he had a big idea. He pulled the shit off too, didn't he? So he supposedly had a brain hemorrhage. Is that right? Where's that? Where's Mercury in his chart? He's got Mercury in Aquarius. He's an intelligent man, right? What's he got going on? He's got Mercury squaring Pluto. So that could be a brain hemorrhage. I could see that. Does not have a lot of water in his chart. He's got that moon in Cancer, and that is about it, boys and girls. Vertex, Pisces. You know, the one thing about Salk is that Salk had a lot of water. He had Salk water. Get it? No, it's a bad joke. Anyway, I think in a weird way, probably Salk saw himself in much more emotional terms. Like when he starts talking about biophilosophy and the big ideas, again, he had a sun square to Jupiter, just like Roosevelt had sun Jupiter square. They both had big ideas. I think with all that water, I think Salk believed himself. I think he really believed himself. Like, I think he saw himself as somebody who was exalted and had some emotional investment. I could see that with the water. He's got the moon, and that's it. This guy has no empathy. He has no empathy. Sorry, very little. He's got let's see, got a lot of earth and a lot of air and not a lot of fire. He's got the true node. What is that in Sag? And that's it. That's it. He's earth air guy. That's kind of interesting, right? That's kind of because water would also be circulation. I think he had a circulation problem. What's Mercury doing in his chart? That's motility. Trine to Mars, trine to the moon. He's got a square to Pluto, square to the south node. Is it square to Chiron? Yeah, maybe he was. Maybe he did have an issue getting around. Maybe he did have an issue getting around with that Mercury Chiron square. Possibly. But I think it's kind of interesting that they didn't want to film him or photograph him because they wanted to have a strong leader. Either that or wanted to sell him as being unstrong, right? Because when it came to selling the polio vaccine, FDR is the guy. Okay. I got a couple other charts here. Roosevelt, Salk, vaccines. Okay, so I wanted to bring this one up. All right, before I do this last chart, it's going to be the last chart of the night. Let me check in with you guys. Jasper's back. He's back on his third trip to the podium, to the studio. He really, Jasper, what are you trying to convey to the rest of the world? What is he doing? Now I got to go back over here. I can't even see the screen now, Jasper. Okay, let me just check in with you guys. Let's see what's happening. Polio vaccine, I think mental retardation is a core. Paulette, there we go. Paulette's nailing something there. In 1974, I saw 500 plus kids at vocational rehab training facility in Minot, North Dakota. Their IQ ranged between 50 and 65. US is 103. Okay, good. I mean, not good, but that's an interesting fact. Probably interesting. That reminds me, supposedly many people have a deficiency in magnesium. Like that is the second most fun. Yes. What else, you guys? Boron. Watch Dana Ashley has the most detail on what Morgellons treats. Hi. Give your cat Morgellons treats. Okay, what do we have here? What is the potential benefit of the sun square to Neptune? Oh, good question. A potential benefit of sun square Neptune is to overcome certain deficiencies, right? To overcome weakness in your life. I think the sun square Neptune aspect is about finding God, That's what I think the Sun square Neptune is. In order to, if you bottom out, like, what do you need? Hey, I need some help. Help me out here. I'm weak. I can't say no to this person. I need help. Oh, okay. Well, let me have some divine intervention. Let me bring this in, right? But it's ultimately all yours anyway. It's all about you anyway, but you have to invoke. I think with the Sun Neptune square, you overcome either sensitivity or addiction, or you overcome a sense of kind of misplaced identity with the Sun Neptune square. But the idea with the Sun Neptune square would be to really overcome it, right? So that it's not like you become invincible, but you can transcend your vulnerability. You can transcend your weakness. You can transcend your addictions. You can transcend the hold that other people have over you. But in order to do that, you got to live clean. And then you have to have some kind of very strong connection to something that it's not other than yourself. It's actually part of who you are, but it's an invocation of the deeper other. Okay. There we go. That's how I see it. And when you get there, you learn a bunch of lessons. Right? Bunch of lessons. And you go through it, and you could wind up being very empathic and very compassionate without being stepped on. The governor from Michigan has Sun late Leo square to Neptune and last to Scorpio. So she's into victimizing others, right? Because Sun Neptune square people can often get victimized themselves, right? So then that's how she's working it out. She's creating a power relationship and victimizing others. Neptune highest place in my chart with Sun Pisces. Well, Nancy, you should be doing prayers for the rest of us. It's a pretty exalted position. Said in relation to FDR, never shoot him when getting in or out of the car is unlike or some. Oh, lard man. Yeah, there you go. Well, I guess Kennedy got shot when he was actually in the car. Okay, what else do we have? Jennifer Lake has made us some awesome vids of VSX, started exactly 1 month after the Federal Reserve, posting the Rip of Justice. Okay. I take boron every day. I love my boron. Salk saw himself as salacious Strood. We see Salk as a sack of shit or a pillow of salt. I think he bought his own bullshit, though, Stephen. He bought his own bullshit. And and again, with that Sun Neptune square, right? He could not unsee it because he was certainly exalted. Everybody walked around. Oh, Jonas, yes, Jonas Salk. He was exempt. He was exempt from seeing himself otherwise. And I think with the Grand Water Trine, he actually convinced himself. Christian Whitmer loves what she's doing in Michigan. My whole life is a prayer. God bless. God bless, Nancy. That's awesome. Glad you're here. Okay, I'm going to do one more chart tonight. And this is the chart of the Rio Summit, which I thought was quite interesting. I'll cancel this. Hold on. There we go. So, little background now. The Rio Summit. Where am I? The Rio Summit was the meeting, the global meeting. Is this it? Right here? Yep. Okay. So the Rio Summit was the global meeting. The UN pulled it together in 1992 from June 4th to June 14th, 10 days in Rio. And they're mapping out the future of the planet. People are there. They're talking about this is what we need. This is what we need. So this whole idea of sustainability, this whole idea of smart cities, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, this is where it comes from, right there. This is where the agreement is signed. The Rio Summit, George H.W. Bush was quite busy during that time. He's ramping up the New World Order, Coalition of the Willing, right? He starts off in 1991, essentially going into Iraq with a bunch of other countries, blowing shit up, leaving Saddam Hussein there, taking whatever he needed to take, and then beginning to tell the world that we are going to be part of the New World Order. We talked about this. There's that Saturn Aquarius during that time. Well, he doesn't stop there. He gets a lot done when he's president. He goes in and he routes out the Medellin cartel, takes out its competition, wipes out Noriega, and then he does the UN summit or the Rio summit, which is signs the papers. Signs the papers. And this is it. This is where the world is headed, right? The blueprint and the model of where we are right now is right here. That's the chart for it. And I got as close as I could. They signed it on the 13th of June. So it's like, okay, well, let's sign this sucker and let's be done by lunch, right? Let's go out and have a few caipirinhas after we've basically screwed the rest of the planet over. So we have Sun, Venus conjunction right there, 22, 22. A lot of 22s going on. 22, 22, 22, 22, a lot of 22s, right? And where are we now? We are in 2020, which is 22, right? Guess what year next year is? It is 21, 2021, hence the name Agenda 21. They want to get this thing turned on by 2021, which is why we're dealing with a planet that's been shut down. This is it now. We are in the stretch run for Agenda 2021, right? What's the other word for it? Agenda 2030. So we're dealing with 9 years now. 9 years. Like, I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to cancel the whole fucking decade. That's what I think. If they could, they'd go from 2019 to 2030, have everything slapped together, and then the rest of us wake up and we're in the Agenda 2030 land. And you keep listening to these people, right? You keep listening to them. People like Zeke Emanuel or Gavin Newsom or, Herr Northam down in Virginia. Oh, we got to keep it going until May. Oh, we might have to keep it going through the fall. Oh, we might have to keep it going through next year. Oh, I can see that we might have this for another couple of years. We got 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Where does it end? Where does it stop? Well, it won't. They're just going to roll the sucker out. They're going to keep the lights dark as long as they can. They'd like to have the lights dark till 2030. When all of a sudden the lights come back on, it's a new fucking world. This is the plan, and they got 1 year. 1 year, Agenda 21, right? Remember, in the major arcana, what are we talking about? We're talking about the world card. The world card, which is the 21st card in the major arcana. Agenda 21 is the new world. And right now we are in the judgment period. The judgment period before the new world is brought into existence. Right? We are in disorder now. The world has moved into disorder. The world has stopped. The order of the world has ceased. And what they want is they want to have a new order, right? Not the old order, but a new order. And where are the nodes? Well, my, oh, my, oh, my. We got the true node in what sign? Capricorn. We got the south node in what sign? Cancer. And where are the nodes right now? Look at that. We got transiting true node on the south node, transiting south node on the true node. Boys and girls, it's showtime. It's showtime in this chart. This is exactly what they're waiting for. We're going to have that eclipse coming up right there on the south node. Now, I actually think that's kind of cool. Like maybe, just maybe, when we get this eclipse coming up in June, it's going to shine its dark light. Its dark light on the south node. And their nefarious purpose will be revealed, illuminated by darkness, possibly. And of course, our good friend Gemini is always in the mix. It always seems to be in the mix, doesn't it? One world or the other, one world or the other. And guess what? Tick, 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 ticky, tick, tick. It's going to conjunct the midheaven. It's going to conjunct that sun. That's right around December. So again, if we look at charts as being fluid through time, which I like to do, for better or worse, this chart and this true node will light this aspect up. It'll light it up. And it's like, what world are you in? You in Agenda 21 land, or you in sort of the Outlander land, right? Oh, look what we have here. Guess what? Agenda 21 is going to have its Mars return as well. That's right. So there's a lot going on with this chart. A hell of a lot going on with this chart. We're going to have Uranus coming up here, being conjunct Juno in Taurus. That's redistribution of assets and wealth, by the way. Juno and Taurus in the 8th house, redistribute that money. Get that UBI flowing. And of course, here we have Saturn, Aquarius. There's Mars right there. Look at that. Well, look at that. We got a Mars-Saturn conjunction. Look at that right there. Bada bing. How about that? That's kind of interesting. I could have done this chart last week. I could have done it next week. I could have done 2 weeks ago. But no, we're actually shining a light, shining a little of that Mars intensity on the plan, right? On the plan. The plan is scripted. So we don't have any Neptune squares here, but we do have a Neptune opposition to Mars, Mercury opposition to Neptune. How does that work? So okay, now remember now, it's supposed to be a small world after all. Green, 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 green. Everybody loves each other. Everybody gets along with each other. Everybody rides around in driverless cars, right? Get a bunch of free shit. Of course, you have to give a few things up. But in Mercury and Cancer, it's like, hey, this is a really good thing. It's good for the planet. It's good for you. You know, it's sustainable. Cancer's a sustainable sign. And then we have Neptune down here, which is like, try to work the two out. You know, is it a fairy tale? Is it real? Is it aspirational? You know, are we really trying to get to that kind of Neptunian state? Or are we just being sold a line of bullshit? It's probably both. It's a very interesting chart. This is an important chart. This is the blueprint of the future, right? This is it. And we're in it right now. The clock is ticked and it is on. It is on. And of course, this is going to be later on, right? This is going to be 2021. 2021, the Saturn return for the Rio Summit chart. They want this thing in place as much as they can by 2021. That is their Agenda 21 timeline. And then 9 years out from that, Agenda 2030. The 20s are going to be bizarre. Okay. They're just going to be bizarre. And they're going to be, how do I say this? The fight in some ways, or the conflict to define the nature of reality and the narrative of where the world is going to go is on the table now and for the rest of the decade. It is on the table. What world are we going to go into? Like, what version of the fork in the road are we going to head to? Are we going into Agenda 21 land, or are we going to go into something else? Because maybe there's a better version of what they have, right? But that's not what they're selling. That is not what they're selling at all. No. I think it's an interesting chart. Very interesting, especially timing wise. Look at that right there. Bada bing, bada bing, bada bing. Coming around here, bang. And then, of course, Mars, the Mars return. Whew. Wow, that's intense. That is intense. It's like, this is the anoretic Mars. They got to get it done. If they waited 2 more days, right? If they did this thing on the 15th, 16th, that Mars would be in 0 Taurus, slow. It's a reminder, got to get this thing done. Got to get it done. And it's squaring Chiron. That's also interesting too, the Mars Chiron square. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to help you out. We're going to help you out, man. We're going to make you feel better. You know, I know. You're feeling a little heartless with that Chiron and Leo. Life's going to get you down, demoralized. That's okay. We got Mars and Aries over here. We're going to help you out. We're going to bring it on back. We're going to run this thing back. What's also interesting is Venus is going to be right here. Ooh, look at that. We got a Venus conjunction. We got a Venus conjunction sighting, and it's going to go retrograde back over the top of Venus. That's going to be interesting. I wonder, look, I'm very hopeful, and sometimes I like to project into things, but I try to be as objective as possible. I wonder if some of this stuff is going to be walked back during this Venus retrograde. I wonder if people are going to really start to look at where we are now and this idea that Agenda 21, which comes out of the Rio Summit, right? That it's going to get some more microscopic examination, like what's really going on here. And there are people that will love this. There are people, oh yeah, this is great. We should all be living like this, right? Those people are a lost cause, by the way. That's just my opinion. That doesn't mean that we can't live a sustainable life, or we can't have, really cool technologies that help us out. We can't treat this planet and the animals and other people better. Of course we can. Of course we can, but we can write a different script. We don't have to follow this one. That's where I'm at with it. Okay. Let me check where you're at because I'm about ready to get out of here. Let's see where you guys are at. Can you all try to learn more about logical fallacy, NLP, better informed if someone's trying to manipulate us? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can certainly do that. Let's see what else we have here. We spent so much money, time, and effort expanding our consciousness for many years. Never could truly stand in it. That is right, Beverly. You got the best last name for your name. Beverly is wise. Very wise. Do you use any doping stimulants to clear your mind? All the time. I prefer Elmer's glue. Absolutely. Elmer's glue. If you want to, Elmer's glue is pretty good, and so is Lysol. Trump was onto something with the Lysol, I have to say. Yeah. When I was in high school, there was this gal who was in high school, and she took a whatchamacallit, a can of Pam. This is where it got kind of weird, right? Her name was Pam, and she took a spray can of Pam and she sprayed it into a baggie, and then she started huffing the baggie because people apparently got off on shit like that. And she died. The Pam coated her lungs, and she died. I guess Lysol's a better alternative. All right, what else do we have here? There's screen. Let's see. Inhale aerosols. Learning about logical fallacies of Shauna. Shauna's great, man. I'm gonna try and get Pam did Pam. She did. Not Pam, not quite Pam, but Pam. Pam did. I always thought that was strange. That Pam huffed Pam, and then Pam died. And I knew Pam's sister. She was a little weirded out after that. Some of the people in these corporations are revolting now. They know the end game destroying the pineal. Yes, it's true. That's true. Let's see. Oh, right on, Steve. Steve, bringing it. Bringing it. Good job, buddy. Yes. Steve. Steve's got the hammer of Thor tonight. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And Steve, right on. Steve stepping up. Eagle says, I remember guys spraying Pam with a paper towel tube. Yeah, that's right, man. The Pam was the thing. I didn't do it. I was like, Jesus Christ, why would you want to do that? Man. Not for me. All right. I'm out of here. Thank you all so much for being here. I'll be back tomorrow, 15 minutes of flame. We'll check out where the world is or isn't, updates on our situation, and whatever other ephemera that I can bring to the table and make remotely interesting. Thank you all for your support. And I'm going to have yesterday's webinar. I'm trying to put it up on the website. And if you want to purchase it, it's a almost 3-hour webinar. It's really good. I thought it was good. I'm a little biased, but I thought it was good. And Jasper thought it was good too. But I'll have that up on the website, and you'll be able to download that and purchase that, and be able to get a clip from it or something. But that's it. Thank you, everybody. Stay strong, stay supple, stay flexible. Keep your heart open, keep your head open. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. For me and Jasper, have a very good night. Love you all. I'll see you tomorrow.